Hello, YouTube. I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney. I am answering publicly posted questions from YouTube users. I literally just forgot what I'm doing. I was like, I'm talking to a camera. What am I actually doing? I'm answering questions for YouTube users about employment law, getting folks the answers they need about employment law from an employment attorney. This is not going well. This is not going well. As you're watching this, I'm probably somewhere in the air over North Carolina. So obviously this is pre-recorded. I'm trying to make sure there's no break in the videos. I know there's a lot of questions. We've got about 10 to 15 questions backlogged right now that I want to get to. It's hard. It's hard getting them all, especially because I'm only releasing. I'm now releasing one video per day, every single day of the week. So 7 full-length videos per week. And I'm trying to do 2 shorts a week because they're kind of they're useful in terms of like getting extra information out that people didn't actually ask, but they're also really good for the algorithm in terms of YouTube, which you might say, Vince, why do you worry about the algorithm? You're just trying to help people just answer their questions. Yes, true. Certainly not trying to make a living off YouTube, but getting more views does mean that we're helping more people. So there's like some notion of like that would have merit, like that would be valuable. Anyways, we got a question here from Red Rojo. YouTube user Red Rojo posted. Let's refresh this so we know when it was posted. Posted 3 days ago. And Red Rojo, it was posted on our video entitled, What Should a Plaintiff in a Sexual Harassment or Discrimination... When should a plaintiff in a sexual harassment or discrimination case speak with the press? And Red Rojo asks us, what would the main concerns about speaking to the press about experiences with the harassment be if you're not involved in a legal case? The statutes are all expired and you're strictly speaking about factual things that can be backed up with documentation. It sucks that there are so few options to hold companies and people accountable for their actions, and it's upsetting there are no ways to earn others. No ways to warn others or spread knowledge that could help. Well, Red Rojo, I would say to you that perhaps you're doing that right now, but also there's non-attorney accounts about workplace discrimination, workplace sexual harassment. Some of them, they're not all created equal. Some of them are great. Some of them are pretty iffy. Some of them give very questionable advice because they don't fully understand what they're talking about. But like, some of them are amazing and they do a great job and they're helping people. So don't think that your contribution on that front would be without merit, right? There's a reply here from YouTube user Charles Johnstone who says, future employers will Google you. I know companies that do background checks on the internet to see if you have filed a lawsuit against a previous employer. Unless you're retired or self-employed, you have to rely upon someone to hire you to survive. You don't want to be seen as a troublemaker. Charles gives good advice. So that is the main concern, right? At the end of the day, if you're doing press on a case, well, you're doing press on not a case, right? Your claims, as you kind of mentioned here in your hypothetical, are expired. There can be no case. I'm taking you at your word. So nothing's being filed. There's no lawsuit being filed. That means 2 things. One, if you have a case filed, there's a certain measure in most jurisdictions of protection against defamation claims if you're speaking to things that are included in a verified complaint, right? So if you're referencing in your conversations with the press sworn statements that you made or someone made in a complaint filed with a court, often that has higher sets of protections against defamation lawsuits and slander lawsuits than if you're just speaking off the cuff with the press. So that's the first thing, right? You don't have a case in play. You don't have those protections in play. Now you're saying here, you specified here that you're only saying factual things that can be backed up with documentation. I hear you, and I agree with you. That is a great defense against defamation and slander. It is not a perfect defense against defamation and slander because sometimes people try to prove that the facts that you're dealing with that are well evidenced and well backed up are not true. And one of the things to note there is one, they could theoretically be successful, right? They could get a jury to believe them that your facts are not, in fact, the facts, right? The second thing is, if they're suing you for defamation and slander, that is super expensive to defend. So even if you win, how much do you spend fighting them off? 30 grand? 60 grand? 100 grand? It happens, right? Often, defamation and slander lawsuits are brought not because they're valuable, but because they silence people just by having to defend them, right? It's very expensive. Now, the second thing, and this is what Charles Johnstone spoke to you about, and I love that we have users answering questions on the channel now. I think it's really, really valuable. I think it's creating a community, and I love it, and I can't wait to retire. If one of you could go to law school and then immediately get to like 10 to 15 years of employment law experience so you could take over the channel, that would be lovely. I would really enjoy that. It's not that I don't love speaking to this camera every day, but you know, it is 20 minutes a day that I'll never get back. Be planting pumpkins. I could be chasing down the bear that ate half of my pumpkins. All right. So Charles tells you, future employers are going to Google you. They're going to do background checks. Yeah, that is the other side of this. So when you do press, you can't really get that off the internet, right? It's the Streisand effect. If you try to get something off the internet, it's just going to be more and more available, and it's going to last longer and longer and longer, and it will follow you for the rest of your life. So, if I was going to get a job somewhere, they would look at all the cases I ever talked about in the press and all the cases in my public dockets, and that would show up on Google and in background checks. And a lot of employers might say, why would we hire this guy? All he does is litigate with employers. It's no good. And by the same token, they might do it to you in your hypothetical, right? If you're talking to the press about, sexual harassment in the workplace, certain employers, who I think are bad employers, but certain employers will then say, oh, Red Rojo is a bit of a troublemaker. We wouldn't say that that's not why we're going to hire Red Rojo, but secretly, that is in fact why that resume gets tossed out, right? And that is more common than you want to believe. The U.S. corporate structure likes to appear woke on Twitter, but the realities of the situation tend not to match up with that, right? It's great that you're on a Pride Month thing for your company, but I don't believe that when push comes to shove, you would be like, yeah, we got to back this person who sued an employer for sexual orientation discrimination. We don't want that person. That person's a troublemaker, right? Like the same person who's like, oh yeah, invest in Black History Month, invest in Pride Month, women's lib on the internet or in an ad, will turn around and be like, oh no, don't hire that one. That one's a troublemaker, right? That is common. Like, it drives me nutty when people are like, oh, it's so amazing that this brand is doing X, Y, and Z. Shut up. Just, what are you, dumb? You dumb? That's not a thing. That's just, hey, we noticed that this group doesn't eat our crappy product. How do we pander to them? Run an ad. They like that XYZ thing. And then people get excited like, oh, they're doing the right thing. No, they're just running different ads to different people. It's crazy. It's crazy that people think this is good stuff. Anyways, I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, I will check the comments in your video and try to create you additional answers if you specify your question. If it does, if this was helpful, please like and subscribe. It helps me to help more people just like you. Take care, everybody.